What's going on, guys? Welcome into my first ever college football recap. Appreciate you guys listening. My name is Cade. I'm just going to walk you guys through just a recap and kind of my thoughts and reactions to the week 1 of college football. Appreciate you guys listening. Let's get right into it. We got number 1 Georgia. They played number 14 Clemson, and they beat them 34-3. For each team, I'm just going to go through the box score first, and then my kind of takeaways and what I saw during the game. Let's get into the box score. I'm just going to start team by team. So we'll start with the Bulldogs here. Carson Beck, 23 for 33, 278 passing, 2 touchdowns. Nate Frazier, they were without Trevor Etienne, the brother Travis Etienne. I think he had an off-season a rest issue, so he was suspended for the first game. But they had no issues. Georgia is so deep that they don't really need their star running back, I guess. Nate Frazier, the freshman, I believe, had 11 carries, 83 yards, and a touchdown. He kind of carried them. He had a big run to seal the game kind of late to set up a touchdown. Receiving-wise, they had transfers from Vandy and what was the other one? London Humphreys was the Vandy one. I'm blanking on where Arian Smith transferred from, but 2 guys that just look like another stud receiver for Georgia. They lose Labaconki last year, and who do they replace him with? Another white kid, speedster, London Humphreys. He had a big 40-yard touchdown to kind of seal that game. I think the end of the third, beginning of the fourth. But yeah, man, they're stacked. Oh, Dominic Lovett was the other guy from Purdue. But yeah, man, everyone played their part. No one had over 63 yards, but there were 5 guys over 30 yards. So everyone contributed to that 278 total. Just going over to the Clemson side now. We'll get more into Cade Klubnik. But he struggled really bad. He did not look good at all. He went 18 for 29, 142 passing, and 1 INT. Their running back, Filmoff, had 16 carries, 59 yards, and Antonio Williams led the receiving room with 6 catches for 76 yards. That was far and away the most. Man, let's just start with, I guess, Carson Beck, just because he's one of the top prospects. He didn't look great to begin the game. He looked, obviously, like there's a reason he's a top prospect. You can just tell by the way he kind of carries and works the offense. Like, he's going to be an NFL quarterback one day. Now, how good he will be, I guess we'll have to see. But yeah, that Clemson defense kind of gave him some problems. I guess it's first week, and I don't want to get into speculation or whatever, but maybe some nerves, maybe with all that expectation of being heavy favorites to win the college football playoff this year, he kind of bounced back. Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at with Carson Beck. Second half, he kind of started getting everything going, getting everything dialed in. He showed me a little bit more of what he could do with his legs. I watched him last year, and I wasn't overly impressed. Obviously, he's an incredibly accurate passer. That's kind of what I saw from him, which is kind of like a pocket quarterback. But he kind of proved me wrong, and he had one run in the first half. I was like, okay, he's got some legs to him. He's not just all just sit in the pocket and pick teams apart. But yeah, I touched on the Noah, Trevor Etienne. Just looking at my notes here. Yeah, 9 different receivers caught a pass and back, which is pretty impressive. That means they're not. I don't know if they really have a guy necessarily this year, as some other teams may have just guys they go to, like 1 or 2 receivers. But everyone did damage on that Georgia team. Yeah, Cade Klubnik just. In my notes I wrote Klubnik looked awful. And yeah, that really just is really it, man. He did not look good. I wasn't impressed with him last year. And there's a lot of hype for him last year, and I was just like, I don't really see it. And he looked awful again, so I don't know. Well, it remains to be seen. That ACC is completely wide open. We'll get to Florida State later. Oh boy, but with them and now Clemson losing, I think if I had to pick a favorite right now to win it, it'd be Miami. We'll get to how Cam Ward played, and then when we get to down to 19. But yeah, man, I think Georgia in the second half, just their depth and their kind of championship pedigree to shine through. Dabo's catching a lot of heat for not using the transfer portal, and that's completely understandable. When you have people like Georgia, like these other teams that are just constantly reloading, getting the best players from maybe some like smaller schools or some of the lower of the Power 4 schools, and they bring them in, and you're rocking true freshmen, true sophomores out there. You're gonna get beat 34-3. You're gonna lose games, and he's catching a lot of hate for not kind of adapting with the times, and rightfully so, man. He's not. I think Feinbaum on ESPN was, he was giving him hell. He said he's not an elite college coach and should not be in that conversation anymore. And I was like, damn. But it's hard to argue against them when you're constantly losing to good comp. Yeah, but interested to see what Clemson, how they bounce back. Like I said, the ACC is wide open, but yeah, Georgia looks like another playoff team, just ready to go another run. We'll see how Carson Beck continues to play in those big moments, but yeah, they look good. They broke away into that fourth quarter, and it was just all Bulldogs from there. So yeah, let's move on to number 2, Ohio State. They beat Akron 52-6. Let's go through that box score real quick for you guys, just to kind of give you an idea. The stats. Here we go. Yeah, we'll start with Ohio State because no one really cares about Akron. Sorry if anyone from Akron is listening. Yeah, Will Howard, 17 for 28, 228 passing and 3 touchdowns. Man, I'd hope he played good against this Akron team. That 1-2 punch with Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, the Ole Miss transfer, is going to be a problem for teams. They combined for 120 yards and a touchdown. They're nasty, man. There's nothing really else to say. They have a really potent offense, and I think it starts with them on the ground. But all the hype and what I think we should all be focusing on is that they have another MHJ, and his name is Jeremiah Smith. And I don't think that's a overreaction at all. This guy is 18 years old. He had 6 catches for 92 yards and 2 touchdowns. I went over kind of his tape on my TikTok if you guys want to go check that out. But I'll talk kind of more in depth about it here. He looks like a grown man. That's literally the best way I can put it. He looks like a grown man going up against these other college guys, and he makes them look tiny. Like he had that back shoulder touchdown to kind of get his scoring off the start. He actually dropped his first pass. I think it was a little bubble screen, and they tried to get it out to him. He just dropped it. And then it cut to Ryan Day, and For those of you that don't know, that was the first time Ryan Day is named a true freshman starting since 2021. I think it was Denzel Burke was the other guy. But yeah, he had this insane one-handed catch where the corner was just pinning his right arm back behind him, and he just brought it in casually, one hand, pinned it against his chest, and set up a touchdown. And yeah, man, when you're 18 and you're looking like that, and you're overshadowing guys like Emeka Egbuka, who's considered one of the best receivers in the country this year of all college football, man, that is a scary, scary Ohio State team. At least for their skill positions. I'll kind of go, they held Akron, jumping around here. Ohio State held Akron to 130 passing and only 47 yards on the ground. 42 of those came from their quarterback, so it was just, running game was just non-existent. Just offense was non-existent for Akron. But yeah, I think the only Ohio State defense looked great too. I know it's Akron. We'll see how they kind of stack up as they play more comp later down the year. But I think the only thing that kind of gives me a little hesitation is Will Howard. I think he's decent. I think he's definitely an upgrade over Kyle McCord. But in terms of quarterback play with other quarterbacks across the country, I don't think he's in that kind of elite tier. And there's one play in this Akron game where he was scrambling around and then tried to throw back across like 7 yards back to his running back, and he threw it into the dirt, and his running back had to go and just jump on it, and it was like a loss of like 8 or 9 yards or something like that. And I was just like, okay, if you're doing this against Akron, what's going to happen when you're playing Michigan, USC, some other incredible team in the playoff, and you're pulling that out against Akron? I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical about him. I never really was high on him. But yeah, he finished with decent stat line. Can't really hate on him. They won 52-6, so that remains to be seen. I would keep a watch out for that. But yeah, I think it kind of sums it up for Ohio State. They reload on skill guys and should be poised to make another deep playoff run. But yeah, we'll head to number 3 Oregon now. They beat Idaho 24-14. Oh, yeah. That's really hard to look at if you're an Oregon Duck fan. Oregon started the game going up 7-0. Let's get those stats up again for you guys. And it's funny because if you look at the box score here, like, listen to this. Dylan Gabriel, 41 for 49 with 380 passing and 2 touchdowns. Okay? Jordan James, 15 carries, 95 yards and a touchdown. 6.3 yards a carry. Okay? Terrence Ferguson, 7 catches, 87 yards. Tez Johnson, 12 catches, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. That Tez Johnson stat is kind of where you're like, all right, he had 12 catches and only, what did I just say, 81 yards? What? How does that work? Almost just 6 yards a catch, basically. That's not what you'd expect from playing a Idaho team that, quite frankly, just is so outmatched it's not even funny. Yeah, watch. I only have 2 eyes, so I had to go back and watch this Oregon game after all the games were said and done. And even the highlights, you kind of are just looking at the highlights, like, all right, where's the big turning point? Where's the big play? What did Dylan Gabriel do to mess up? And it's not what did he do to mess up. It's like he was throwing 5-6 yard dink and dunks the entire game. Like, were you terrified to mess up in your first start from transferring from Oklahoma, or what was the problem here, man? Because there's actually no reason that you should be scared to throw the ball down the field against Idaho, and this kind of makes me a little worried for them going forward. Don't get me wrong, Idaho, that defensive coordinator is going to get some looks by probably some major teams after that performance, but they forced a fumble. They had a big fourth down stop in the third quarter, and when Oregon was in their own territory. And it was just a weird game for Oregon. They didn't really do anything to like necessarily beat themselves, but they just didn't look like they were ready for a game, quite honestly. And they're lucky that they got Idaho, because if they play a competent team with skill at every position like they have, they lose that game. Both Idaho's touchdowns were trick plays. One was a double, like an end reversed back to the other receiver, back to the quarterback, down the sideline for a touchdown. Well executed. They almost got it called back because the pass is kind of parallel, but the call stood. The other one was like a triple option, I think, or something like that. Or no, it was like Philly on the goal line, and instead of throwing it, the dude just ran it in. It was kind of funky, but yeah, man. I think I was watching the USC LSU game, and they put the Oregon score up there, and I guess I'm not the only one when kind of just not knowing what to think happened to this game. He's like, I looked at the game and I don't really know what went wrong for them, and I was like, dude, I could not agree more. Oregon had to pick to seal the game at the end, and I don't know. This is just, I wrote this in my notes. Oregon picked it off and ran it to the end zone. You know how like the NFL teams, once they get it picked, they'll run to the camera and the whole defense will get in it. Oregon did that against Idaho. I don't even know what to say about that. It's embarrassing to start. That's just embarrassing. If you're needing a game-sealing pick against Idaho, you're in for a rude awakening the rest of the year. But yeah, man, I think Oregon, they have all the talent. I think Dylan Gabriel's actually good. I like him better than Will Howard. But Dan Lanning's got to get those dudes in line and get them locked in, because they have some teams on their schedule. We'll get more to their schedule later, but yeah. Interesting first game from Oregon. Let's move on from that. We'll talk about number 4, Texas. They beat Colorado State 52-0. They just got the run game going early. Let's get this back up. Box score again. Yeah, they had 190 through the ground. Jared Gibson, Jaden Blue, impressed. I was really impressed by Jaden Blue. He just looks dynamic as a runner. They were just dominant, really. This is what it looks like to just handle a team. And the Colorado State team, that's not bad. They had a quarterback. If you guys remember that quarterback, I think his first name's Nico Lisi or something like that. He was the guy that was offered by Kansas State $600K, and that was a huge scandal during the offseason. He's there. They got that Horton receiver. He's decent. He didn't really do much against this Texas team, but they had some players. They're not a bad team. Really nothing to say about this Texas team other than Ewers had a really awful pick in the first half, and that just can't happen against a better team. He kind of took off to run for the first down and kind of changed his mind last second when he was almost across the line and threw a pass that got batted up in the air and picked off, and stuff like that you just can't do against better teams, but he knows that. And if that doesn't happen, they have Arch Manning behind him. If that doesn't change. Speaking of Arch Manning, he got to play. went 5 or 6, 95 yards, touchdown, and then snuck one in for a QB sneak for a rushing touchdown. Yeah, Texas just looked dominant. They have a good defense. They're the more suited for the SEC than I think Oklahoma is in terms of physicality defensively and just in the trenches overall. But yeah, Texas dominates. Nothing really more else from me about them. We'll get more to that Texas-Michigan matchup. We do predictions later on. But yeah, we'll go to number 5, Alabama now. They destroyed Western Kentucky 63-0. Yeah, this is what domination looks like. Oregon. Sorry. Not sorry, actually. 7 for 9, 200 yards passing, 3 passing touchdowns, and 2 rushing for Jalen Milroe. He's just a beast, man. I like what Kellen DeBoer is doing with him and not really kind of forcing him to be the guy back there, just dropping back and just passing 30 times a game. I know this is against Western Kentucky, and he didn't really need to do that, but his opening touchdown was QB keeper, and I think we'll be seeing a lot of that just with how dynamic of an athlete he is. He's an absolute unit, man. He's a monster, to be honest. Justice Haynes had 4 carries, 102 yards, and a touchdown. Just absurd. He had an 85-yard touchdown, I believe. Yeah, man. The whole story was about this 17-year-old 5-star named Ryan Williams. Had 2 catches for 139 and 2 touchdowns. Just absurd, to be honest. I think Kellen DeBoer was the perfect guy to take over for Nick Saban. He wants to win, and he's won everywhere he's been. And just thinking about Bama, that's all they do. Nick Saban just found a way to win. They had those guys dialed in every game to go out there and win. And I think DeBoer's just going to keep just winning, man. I don't see Alabama really falling off this year. Yeah, they look good. Again, preface this, I understand that all these top teams have played Western Kentucky. We'll talk about Ole Miss beating Furman 76-0 next. I understand, but you can kind of gauge how players look and just kind of how they are moving about. Just kind of get a feel for them going forward. But yeah, Bama looks good. Nothing really more to say about them. They roll. Tide, get it? Oh god. Anyways, number 6, Ole Miss beat Furman 76-0. Man, that's just not nice at all. Just not nice from them. Looking at the box score, they Jackson Dart 22 completions, 22 completions out of 27 attempts, 418 through the air, 5 touchdowns. Matt Jones, Dominique Thomas, Henry Parrish, they all carried the ball. 68 yards from Matt Jones. I think he came in late in the 4th as like get out there and let our starters rest type of deal. But he looked good. Trey Harris looks like a monster. He's going to be a dog for them. Caden Lee had a good game, 4 catches, 78 yards, touchdown. This is just what you call domination. This is what it looks like, Oregon. I know it's the 3rd time I've said that, and I'll keep saying it. This is how you make a statement in your first game at home. Jackson Dart looked good. I'm excited to see him play a good defense and see how he kind of responds, but I think he's going to be good. But yeah, man, this Ole Miss defense is no joke either. Yeah, they completely revamped the O-line. 4 new starters from Ole Miss came back, and their only player returning is their right tackle, Micah Pettis. So there's a lot of turnover there, and I'm going to be interested to see how they kind of mesh as the season goes on. But yeah, they're an exciting team for sure. Yeah, the played Furman, so there's nothing more I can really touch on there. Here's a ranked on ranked. We'll get to number 7, Notre Dame. They beat A&M 23-13 at College Station. This game was electric from start to finish. This is a defensive coach's dream. If you want to watch how to play defense, watch this game. Just the grit from both sides, but especially this Notre Dame team. They are a bunch of freaks on the defensive side of the ball. The narrative coming in was the transfer quarterback from Duke, Riley Leonard, playing against his former head coach at Duke, Mike Elko. They both left Duke, poor Blue Devils, and they come over and they get matched up against each other week 1. And I think this kind of led to this low-scoring kind of defensive battle. There wasn't a touchdown scored until 7 minutes left in the third quarter when Jadarian Price ran in a 47-yarder that was absolutely electric. But yeah, man, they rolled. They look good. I think Notre Dame just their athleticism defensively. Let's just get into the box score real quick. Just kind of give you guys some stats real quick. We'll start with Notre Dame. They had obviously that transfer quarterback I talked about, Riley Leonard, 18 for 30, 158 through the air, no touchdowns, no INTs. But then he also tacked on 12 carries for 63 yards and kind of showed off that athleticism. We also had 2 Notre Dame running backs that I'm just really excited for. Jeremiah Love looks like an absolute dog. They had big shoes to fill with Estime being gone, and he was kind of like their bell cow last year. And Jeremiah Love looks like he's poised to pick up that slack along with Jadarian Price. They look good. Receiving, kind of quiet from both sides. This game, it wasn't really a highly successful passing game for either offense, but the Clemson transfer Bo Collins had a huge contested catch down the stretch to put them in plus territory. For Notre Dame, he just went up and got it over some poor A&M guy. That's what he transferred here to do, and that's what the Fighting Irish need him to do down the stretch is win those battles 1v1. He almost crashed out after making the catch too. He was hyped. But yeah, we'll head over to A&M now. Connor Weigman, 12 for 30, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, not 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He struggled, and this is one of those ones where you're like, all right, I get it. This Notre Dame defense is suffocating, and they got those boys dialed up over there in South Bend, and it's tough. It's going to be tough for anybody who plays Notre Dame to have a solid game passing. Le'Veon Moss had 20 carries, 70 yards and a touchdown, and no A&M receiver had over 31 receiving yards, so you can just tell that Notre Dame secondary is legit, led by an Arizona kid, Ben Morrison, out of Brophy. He's a projected top, I don't want to over-exaggerate here, but I think he's one of the top 5 corner prospects. But yeah, up there with kind of Will Johnson and them. He's so under control with his body and feet. His feet move quick, but his upper body is slow. Just very in control the entire time. He's impressive to watch. But yeah, man, I'll just get to my game notes now. Defense shined. Yeah, they did. I kind of touched on it, but I think a lot of this had to do with kind of the cat and mouse game between what Riley Leonard had information-wise against Mike Elko and vice versa. They know what each other want to do, and I think that kind of counteracted each other and kind of led to this low-scoring game. Man, turnovers just brutal for the Aggies this game. They had 2 picks from Weigman, and it just came in key moments. when you don't turn the ball over, if you're Notre Dame, that's a pretty good sign you'll win the game, especially when the other teams turn the ball over 2 times. Yeah, they have a dynamic rushing game. That Jeremiah Love kid is going to be fun to watch. I'm excited to keep watching him. But yeah, man, it's fitting that the game came down to a 4th and 2 stop by that Notre Dame secondary. They ran it kind of reminded me of like the Patriots Seahawks Super Bowl when they were in that slant route and Butler picked it off, except they didn't pick it off. Notre Dame didn't pick it off, but same kind of concepts. They just kind of had like a little pick route and incomplete. Good play by the corner and just a huge road win. Going into College Station, it's never going to be easy going in there. And I do think this Texas A&M team is talented, but I think it says more about Notre Dame winning than it does A&M losing. And yeah, man, I'm excited to watch those two teams kind of see what they do after that. I think that was a huge, huge game for Notre Dame because I think they're favored up until that USC game at the end of the season where they go into the Coliseum. So that will be – they're going to be fun to watch, man. I'm excited for that. Moving on to number 8, Penn State. This is kind of a weird game. I was trying to watch as many games as I can live. I could live. And this this Penn State game, I think it was delayed for close to 3 hours, I think. So I honestly just turned it off and started watching other games because I was obviously couldn't watch it. But what I did see from the first half I watched and the highlights of the second half, they have a running back. Again, I'm not going to even compare him to Barkley, but he looked good. Nicholas Singleton looked good. He had 13 carries, 114 yards and a touchdown, averaged 8.8 yards a carry. And this West Virginia, like, their defense is not bad. They're not a bad team either. I think Garrett Green, we'll get to him in a second. He's a good quarterback. But yeah, Penn State, Harrison Wallace had 5 catches, 117 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. And Drew Aller, 11 for 17, 216 through the air, and 3 touchdowns. Yeah, this game was kind of funky. They both had fumbles on their opening drives, and they kind of just set the tone for just an overall weird game with the whole rain delay and all that kind of stuff. But give credit to West Virginia; their defense stepped up and made it tough. It wasn't walk in the park for this Penn State offense, but they kind of broke through. I think the kind of killer moment in this game was, that Penn State touchdown right before the half. That kind of set the tone for the second half. It kind of showed like, hey, we're better than you guys. We just went down the field and scored in 19 seconds. So, Nittany Lions cruise. I think that score 34-12 was kind of closer than I feel like it seemed in the game, especially in the second half when they kind of pulled away. But yeah, man, that's it for them. We'll go into Michigan now. Number 9, Michigan. They're very, they're very, very, very in need of a quarterback, and watching this game just reminded me of what I remember Michigan being like when I was a kid. I'm young, and I obviously have been around for a while, but growing up, I always thought, all right, Michigan, they're going to have freaking studs come out. They have Clowney. They have a bunch of guys coming out that are just studs on the defensive side of the ball. Big Ten, grindy type of games, but they never had a quarterback. And then you get a guy like J.J. McCarthy, and they lead him to a natty last year, and you're like, huh, that's what having a quarterback looks like for them. And they're back to not having a quarterback, man. They struggled. They went with a dual quarterback system this game, and it just looked out of sync, out of rhythm. No one looked like they knew what was going on. Pull up this box score for you guys. man, it just looked awful. They have two running backs, and obviously Donovan Edwards was the hero of last year's national championship for them, along with Blake Corum, that kind of 1-2 punch. But they got another guy, Khalil Mullings, 15 carries, 92 yards. He looked good. They kind of stifled Edwards, only 27 yards on 11 carries, not great. He did have a receiving touchdown. But yeah, man, this Fresno State team, give them credit. Their defense played well, and I don't know who to attribute that to more. I would like to think it's the Michigan offense not being good enough, because if you're getting stopped by Fresno State, regardless of what you can say about their coaching, if they're well coached or not, they should not match up with you at all, really. But yeah, Davis Warren, 15 for 25, 118 through the air, a touchdown and a pick. To be honest, man, this game seemed like a Michigan blowout from the jump. They went down. Edwards had that receiving touchdown. They got a stop. And then all of a sudden, the next Michigan drive, Davis Warren throws a little lollipop to wasn't Loveland. It was, I think, Tyler Morris, maybe. Could be wrong about that. Don't quote me on that. But he's running a little kind of corner, like post route, post route to the middle of the field, and he just kind of lays it up there for him. The corner is like, okay, thank you, I'll take it. Put way too much air underneath it, and from that, it kind of just sucked the life out of an entire stadium. Yeah, man, it's not like Fresno State even killed them on the ground. That's what I'm saying about Michigan having a good front seven always. They only had 9 yards rushing total as a team. That's unbelievable, actually. But they did have two receivers over 67 yards, one with 97, one with 97 and one with 67. And yeah, Alex Orji, I don't even know what is going on with him, man. They threw a passing touchdown with him. He's like their running quarterback. It worked. They pulled it. He threw a touchdown. Congrats. But Michigan and Oregon, man, I am not liking what y'all are cooking at all. I don't see Michigan making, honestly, any noise. They might make the playoff just because their defense is going to keep them in games, but I wouldn't be surprised if they miss out. Quarterback play is everything, and if you don't have a good quarterback, you're completely screwed, and that's the boat Michigan's in again. It's not like they don't have skill guys either, which is like the frustrating part if you're a Michigan fan. That tight end, Colson Loveland, looks like a freaking monster. I'm not going to put him on the same tier as like Bowers, but he's up there, man. He's one of the best tight ends in the country. But yeah, man, nothing more to say. Just disappointed with that Michigan result. It is a win, so I guess you'll take it, but we'll be interested to see how that Michigan team kind of plays out throughout the rest of the season. But yeah, we'll go to number 10, Florida State now. Where do I even start with them? Holy. They lose to Boston College 28-13. I'm filming this on Tuesday, kind of like the morning after, and I made a TikTok on my Let's Talk Ball podcast TikTok page if you guys want to go check that out. Just kind of going through some of the decisions he made, but let me just sum it up for you guys. He goes to Clemson. He backs up Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is one of the best college quarterbacks in the past decade, really. He's one of the top prospects. He's going to have a huge year for the Jags. And you got DJ Uiagalelei, I think is how you say his name. I'm just going to call him DJ because I don't want to say that name every time I bring him up because it'll be a lot this time around. He is just the most unconfident, not poised, unathletic. And I'm just hating on this guy, but it's honestly deserved. He goes to Oregon State last year and has a decent year. But you got to remember the types of defenses he's playing conference. They're Pac-12 defenses. They're not like, yeah, you had Oregon. Yeah, you had Washington. Washington State was decent only because of Cam Ward. But he just didn't look good. And he transfers away to the Seminoles, who lose Jordan Travis after getting snubbed last year from the playoff. And he just looks like he did at Clemson, just awful, completely out of his element. Couldn't make a good decision. Horrible, just that timer that you have, that internal timer, internal clock that quarterbacks are supposed to have to get the ball off is non-existent for him. He has no timer. It's just whenever he feels like it. Yeah, he just looked terrible. The coaching and receivers didn't help him out at all. There was a few times where DJ actually put a good ball up there, and this tight end there hyping up the entire game just right through his hands. Okay. His receiver did bail him out, had a nasty touchdown. Had two dudes touching grass. That was absolutely disgusting. That was the highlight of the game for them. But, again, right before the half, you're threatening to score. You're down 14-3 at that time, I think. You have to settle for a field goal. And it's like, okay, that's not what you want, but you're still within one score, whatever. If you watch the play, the throw that he missed was a designed pick play. The freaking Boston College corner comes crashing down. There's two corners on one receiver for them. They have a Florida State Seminole wide open in the back of the end zone. What does DJ do? He freaking leads him too far and throws it out of the back of the end zone. You're like, it's just a killer, man. It's just like everyone on the sideline is just, in that entire stadium, it's just like, oh my gosh, man, what are we doing? What are we doing? So yeah, if you can't tell, I'm not a huge DJ guy. But on the flip side, I didn't read the box score because I was just disgusted with DJ. I just had to get right into it. But take nothing away from this Boston College team. They actually look good, man. They don't really have like the skill guys. They don't really have the huge NIL and stuff like that. It's Boston College. You're not going to find that. But what you do have is Bill O'Brien, and that is more than enough. They just looked like the more disciplined team. They looked dialed in from the jump. Thomas Castellanos really impressed me. I had no idea who this guy was coming in, what he was about, anything about him really. And he goes out and he has 10 completions for 16 attempts, 106 through the air, 2 touchdowns, tacked on 14 carries for 73 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, man, he really impressed me. Their running game, they ran for 263 yards on this Florida State team. 263. I'll say it one more time. 263 rushing yards. Guess how much Florida State had? 21. What? I can't even fathom what Norvell is going through, what those Florida State kids are going through on campus right now after losing back-to-back games. Yeah, they just looked terrible. This Boston College team, their leading receiver was their running back. He had a big... They ran the same play 3 times. The first time, Trayshawn Ward, the running back, who had a great game, by the way, 12 carries, 77 yards, dropped the wheel route. Just wide open dropped it for a first down, okay? They ran the same play to put him in to plus territory, and then they ran the same play again but flipped it to score a touchdown. It's like, is no one on that Florida State sideline making adjustments, or what is going on over there? I can't even – I want to know what was happening on that sideline where they're not making adjustments constantly. But, yeah. Yeah, man. They They looked awful. I don't even want to go into for their sake. They have good running backs, which is the problem. Cam Davis and Roydell Williams are both fine. They had combined 21 yards. They only ran the ball 3 times each. DJ finished with 21 for 42, 272 through the air, a touchdown, and an interception. Just like the most mid-stat line of all time, tacked on with how many throws he missed. And I'm not going to hate him. Okay, actually, yeah, I am. But he did have some good throws. He had a few rolling right where he actually looked kind of comfortable for like the 3 times the entire game that they ran it. And that's what I'm saying is like he is not a great quarterback, but you gotta if you know that and you're the coaching staff, establish the run game early. Like set up the play action, get this guy into plus spots where you're not putting so much dang pressure on him to throw the ball 42 times. There's plenty of times throughout the game where your Florida State defense, they got stops. They had big-time moments where you can seriously take advantage of them. And they just throw the ball the first 3 times and punt the ball away, and you're like, all right, well, that was all for nothing. But, yeah, Florida State is they look terrible, man. They're one of those teams that probably will not finish in the top 25, even if they do have some big wins against good teams later in the year. They'd be lucky to get a bowl game out of it, in my opinion. They did not look good at all. But yeah, man.
I just had to get some water.
We'll go
mouth was
over
getting dry, but
after that.
where was I? Okay, Mizzou Tigers.
Jeez.
Brady Cook,
We'll go over to
19 for 30,
Missouri Tigers.
218 passing,
They,
1 touchdown.
Nate Noel, Kawan Lacey, 11 carries, 48 yards and a touchdown for Nate Noel. Kawan Lacey, 5 carries, 42 yards. Yeah, really. You're playing Murray State. They beat them 51-0. Murray State only had 86 yards of total offense. I'm pumped for this Mizzou team. I can't really gauge what they were about from this game. They have one of the best receivers in the country, Luther Burden. It's no surprise. Everyone should know that name. He'll be a top receiver prospect coming out of the draft. But yeah, man, I have really nothing to say. Too crazy. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I did not watch this full game because I thought there were better games on than Mizzou against Murray State, but did watch the extended highlights and exactly what I think everyone thought was going to happen, what should happen. They just manhandled them, just blanked them out on defense, which is tough to do. Putting a 0 up there is, no matter who you're playing, there's bound to be a play where you get broken coverage or something, but not with this Mizzou team. They have a good defense and they're well coached. But yeah, I'm pumped to see them play some good competition throughout the rest of the year. Excited to see what Brady Cook can do. But yeah, man, they're good. They're nothing more to say about them. Kind of same thing with Utah. Cam Rising is 25 years old, man. He's in his 7th year, I believe. He went 10 for 15, 254 passing, and 5 touchdowns. Dijon Stanley had 3 catches for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think both of them are on the little wheel routes again. I don't know why no one can cover those, but yeah. They just manhandled Southern Utah, 49-0. They look good. Their defense looked good. Utah's good. I'm interested to see how Cam Rising plays in big games. You would think that 7 years of college football experience would give you the edge over some guys, but I don't think he's the most talented. I think there's a reason he's still playing college football is because he doesn't think he's highly regarded as far as the NFL draft is concerned to even get drafted, to be honest. And the longer he stays in college, the less likely he is to get drafted because who wants a 26-year-old college quarterback coming out, and you got guys coming out like Drake May that are 20, 21 coming out of college into the draft, where this guy's got 6 years on him almost by the time the next draft cycle comes around. But yeah, man, I just talk about quarterback play. I think Utah beats the teams they're supposed to beat, and any close game that they come, I think their defense keeps them in it. But when it comes down to it, I think Cam Rising kind of folds. I'd love to be proven wrong because I do like Utah, and I do like what they're about, and I'm a big Dalton Kincaid guy. I believe he went to Utah. That's embarrassing. I'm pretty sure he did, though. But yeah, man, nothing really more to say. Let's get to number 13, LSU. They lost to USC 27-20. This was a fun freaking game, man. This is what I believe, like, if you were to ask someone, like, all right, what's like the perfect college football game from week one where you're like, all right, this is what college football is all about. You turn this game on, you're like, wow, this is what it's about, man. Great quarterback play. And this is what I really like, and Kirk Herbstreit kind of kept harping on it. But both these quarterbacks, they had guys in front of them, man. They had Jaden Daniels and they had Caleb Williams, 2 top 3 picks, and they were behind them, just learning, taking second team reps, just competing against those guys every single day. And while I don't think they have the talent that obviously Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels do, I do think they're both damn good quarterbacks. I was not familiar with Miller Moss's game at all. He was fired up the entire game. I think it was kind of obnoxious at first, and then I saw an interview and after the game, and I also saw a little Zoom this morning, I believe. He just seems very mature and very goal-oriented. I feel is the best way to describe this USC team. At least that's what Miller Moss makes it seem like. They look just poised to make a playoff run. They look good, man. He went 27 for 36, 378 passing and a touchdown, averaged 10.5 yards completion. It's great. Their running back, Woody Marks, is hilarious. He had 16 carries, 68 yards, and 2 touchdowns, including that game-sealing one. Man, he's an angry runner, man. There's really nothing else to say about that guy. And then you got this USC team. Excuse me. You got this USC team, and they got Kyron Hudson, which, if you didn't see that catch he had, stop what you're doing right now. I don't care what you're doing. Look up Kyron Hudson catch and just enjoy, man. That was, between that and the Robert Morris catch, I made a video about that on the TikTok if you want to go check it out. 2 catch of the year candidates in week 1 is absurd, and not even like, oh yeah, okay, that was a great catch. That was utterly absurd. He goes up like kind of like Pearsall-esque, and grabs the tip of the football with his fingertips, and then on the way down catches it again and maintains contact or maintains control throughout the entire catch process. That was absurd. That was incredible. Zachariah Branch is like a human joystick, man. That dude is absolutely electric. Every time the ball is in his hands, I just think something good is going to happen. Then you got two Arizona guys in Jacoby Lane who went to Red Mountain and Deuce Robinson who went to Pinnacle. They both had big key roles, I think. Jacoby Lane had that great touch pass by Miller Moss catch, and then he had a huge move the chains play late in the game where Miller Moss kind of pressuring his face off his back foot, put it right in between the corner and the safety, and Jacoby Lane made a great catch to move the chains and get him into plus territory. Deuce drew a huge DPI. I don't think it led to anything. I think they had like a false start or something that kind of killed it off. But 2 catches, 49 yards, big time from them. They have just Lincoln Riley's got those boys dialed in. Just ton of talent where it matters and skill positions. And you got a quarterback, man. So I like USC a lot. They will be interested to see how that defense continues to play. I think it was a great sign holding this LSU team to 20 because I think they're very talented. I think Garrett Nussmeier had a fantastic game, man. Kirk Herbstreit was all on this man's meat the entire game, just saying like, "Oh, he keeps putting on people's helmets. He keeps putting on people's helmets." But he wasn't wrong, man. He went 29 for 38, 304 passing, 2 touchdowns, and a pick, which that pick came late in the game, kind of just irrelevant, trying to just make something happen. But yeah, man, John Emery Jr. had 10 carries, 61 yards. Josh Williams, the senior, had 9 carries, 33 yards. Not great, but I think John Emery Jr. is the one you want to focus on there. And then Kyron Lacy, man. I think he had 5 catches on the first drive, and then he finished with 7, which I don't get. I think either LSU thought that was all right. That's good. But I don't know, between that or USC just made adjustments, but he had a crazy touchdown catch. He looks just like another stud LSU receiver, man. As soon as he caught the first ball and was fired up, and I was like, oh no, they got another one. They got another guy. They just crank these dudes out, man. I don't know where they're getting them from, what they're feeding them down the bayou, but man, he impressed me a lot. Has some other guys too. Tight end Mason Taylor, 7 catches, 62 yards. Aaron Anderson, 5 catches, 64 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, man, it's just a fun game, man. They have Perkins, big time NFL prospect on that LSU team. Played good. I'd like to see him. He had 8 total tackles, which is fine, I guess. Half a TFL. I mean, he looked fine. I want to see him do more and kind of lead this LSU team. But overall, just a fun game, man. Yeah, I'm excited to see what both these teams do the rest of the season. And that USC Notre Dame game is going to be freaking fun at the end of the season. That might have serious playoff implications on that game. But yeah, we'll move on to number 15 Tennessee. They beat Chattanooga 69-3, as you would expect. They got a redshirt freshman. And I'm going to butcher his name. I think it's Nico Iamaleava. I think that's how you say it. He just, I don't know. So they graduate Joe Milton, who can throw the football the entire length of the field. And they replace him with the redshirt freshman who has a cannon, man. I don't know what the Tennessee guys down there they're recruiting. All right, who has the biggest arm in the entire country? Yeah, we'll take him. But I'm getting away from just how good this guy looked. They ran a lot of RPO. Let's get the stats up real quick. They ran a lot of RPO, and I think for a redshirt freshman and his decision making, again, I know Chattanooga, not delusional and thinking that he just tore up Georgia, but he finished 22 for 28, 314 passing, 3 touchdowns, average 11.2 yards of completion. Man, that Dylan Sampson kid, 12 carries, 124 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He looked good, man. He looked good. And then they have another good receiving core, man. A team with just weapons at every position that you want. Dante Thornton Jr., 3 catches, 105 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Brew McCoy, 6 catches, 89 yards. You got Chris Brazzell, the second, 5 catches, 59 yards. Man, they just have guys everywhere. They also have a guy named Squirrel White, which is pretty sick. 2 catches and 22 yards. He's listed as their slot guy, and Chris Brazzell, I think, played more than him. I don't know if that just had to do with the game script and stuff like that. But I would love for a guy named Squirrel White to get freaking catches, man. Every time that name pops up, I think it's good for anybody. But yeah, anyways, I'm getting sidetracked by that guy that guy's name. Nico looked great. He looks like a very poised and more efficient passer than Joe Milton. And I think he obviously there's immediate comparisons to Joe Milton right away, just with throw power and how big of an arm this kid's got. I think he's listed at like 6'3", 6'4", but he's lengthy, man. He's not as built as much of a unit as Joe is, but he's got that kind of long, lengthy build. He's got a quick release too, man. They look good, man. There's really nothing else to say. I'm trying to find words. They just look good. Yeah, I'm excited to see. We'll get more into the predictions later, but you'll hear my thoughts on NC State and how I think they looked in their first game. Spoiler alert, they looked bad. But I think Tennessee runs them over next week in one of the only ranked matchups next week we got. But yeah, we'll move on to Oklahoma. They beat Temple 51-3, number 16 Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold finished with 141 through the air and 4 touchdowns, going 17 for 25. Running back Taylor Tatum and Sam Franklin combined for 114 yards and a touchdown. Bauer Sharp looks like one of those tight ends. Transfer from Southeast Louisiana had 5 catches for 47 yards and a touchdown. Deion Burks had 6 catches for 36 yards and 3 touchdowns. I don't know. That's unbelievable. But I think the main takeaway as far as just going forward with this Oklahoma team, they lost Jaleel Farouk, which is their big guy outside, their ex receiver. He goes down with a broken foot, and he's out 4 to 6 weeks. That's a big loss for them. Yeah, it's a big loss. Jaleel Farouk is a big part of this team and a big part of what they're trying to do. And just, you hate to see that, man. You hate to see injuries take away a good player like that. But overall, Oklahoma looked good. I'm not going to really spend too much time on them. They played Temple. Temple's got one of the worst rosters in the entire country. But yeah, man, we'll go to number 17, Oklahoma State. They beat South Dakota State 44-20. And they're not lying when they say Ollie Gordon is the truth, man. He just looks like a man amongst boys, the way he just towers over and just runs through people. There's a reason he's a top running back prospect. He showed it. He looks unbelievable. Let's get these stats up real quick. His first touchdown, and I was like, dude, he just looks like an NFL running back, man. And it's not an over-exaggeration. Literally just watch the tape, man. He just freaking jumps off the screen at you. He had 27 carries, 104 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And that's with this Oklahoma State team, which I think Ollie Gordon and Omarion Hampton, the running back for UNC, they're going to have to run in. They're going to get a lot of volume. They're going to get a lot of carries, and they might not have the yards per carry that you'd like to see, especially in college. But then you got to keep in mind, like, Alan Bowman is an average. He's definitely below average ranked quarterback. For a quarterback for a ranked team. He played good, went 25 for 34, 267 and 3 touchdowns, but put him up against Cam Ward, against Carson Beck, against these top guys, like, they're going to be keying in on Ollie Gordon, so I wouldn't be too concerned. He still averaged almost 4 yards a carry, but just watch the tape with Ollie Gordon. He's going to get a ton of carries, but I just don't want people they think he's like overrated or something because he's not getting like the most efficient. He's not being the most efficient on the ground. But yeah, man, he's a stud. Their entire offense just rolls through him. He sets up everybody else. They're so worried about stacking the box and worried about him just running over people that brings people down the box and just kind of opens up the passing game. The play action is going to be a huge point for this Oklahoma State team. Just kind of get this defense thinking like, okay, we're going to key in on Ollie Gordon. Nope, we're going to pass. Like, that's how it should be ran, and that's what they were doing. They have some skill guys on the outside. They have Dezon Stribling, what a name. 6 catches, 83 yards. He looked good. Rashad Owens. They use Ollie Gordon out of the backfield too, man. He just does everything, man. But yeah, I think Oklahoma State, the 44-20 scoreline is like, all right, you give a 20 points, but I get they're an FCS team. I'm just interested to see how the Oklahoma State defense holds up. That front seven looked a little leaky, and giving up 4.4 yards a carry to an FCS team is not the best sign. So we'll keep an eye out for them. We'll jump over to number 18, Kansas State, Avery Johnson. He's fun to watch. I don't really rate him that much as a quarterback, to be honest with you. They played UT Martin. They beat him 41-6. He had 14 completions, 21 attempts, 153 yards in the air, 2 touchdowns, and INT. DJ Giddens had 13 carries, 124 yards, average almost 10 yards a carry. Just stuff you expect playing UT Martin. Jace Brown, 5 catches, 71 yards. They got a mid team, to be honest. I think Kansas State is good. I think their defense is good. They're good. They're kind of bland. No one really like kind of jumps off the screen. That Giddens 10 yards a carry is like, all right, okay, it's UT Martin. Defense held the UT Martin offense in check. And yeah, man, I honestly, let's move on because I don't think that was 41-6, just what you would think would happen. Nothing really more to talk about there. And then we get to Miami, Florida. This was one of the games of the week. This is one of the games that ESPN thought, all right, we're going to nationally televise this one. Midday college football in between the number 1 team in the country and the number 14 team in the country, and the number 7 team in the country and Notre Dame and number 20 Aggies. Okay? This is what they thought was the best game. And in a lot of ways, in the first half, they were right. This game looked good. The swamp was packed. It was freaking hot. They kept talking about the heat. Cam Ward. He is unbelievable. I don't want to over-exaggerate here, and I'm not when I'm telling you guys this. He has got to be the most calm, cool, collected quarterback I've seen in college in a very long time. He goes out there, the entire narrative around this guy. Coming out of high school, he was barely recruited. I mentioned this on my TikTok page again. He had an offer from Incarnate Word and Texas Southern. Those were his 2 offers coming out of freaking high school. He goes to Incarnate Word, tears it up, transfers to Washington State, tears it up, has, over 50 combined touchdowns over there in the season, completely carries that Cougars team. And what does he do? He comes in to one of the most hostile environments in college football, and he just lights it up. He goes 26 for 35 with 385 passing, 3 touchdowns, and he has that INT. It's like the only kind of blemish on that game for him. But man, not only did he do it, Damian Martinez is a freaking animal. The way that dude runs is scary. He likes to hit people. He's not afraid to just lower his pad level and just lay into somebody. He had 15 carries for 64 yards. Yeah, man. They got 3 receivers on the Bilikinoff, I think that's how you say it, receiver watch. Xavier Restrepo, I think that's how you say his name. 7 catches, 112 yards, and a touchdown. They got Elijah Rowe, Isaiah Horton. They got a bunch of guys, man. They got some absolute dogs on them. They got a Houston transfer that's nasty. They're stacked, man. I can't get over how good Cam Ward played, though. On the other side of the ball, Florida. Graham Mertz, he struggled, man. 11 for 20, 91 yards and a pick. Montrell Johnson had 11 carries, 106 yards and a touchdown. He was their kind of bright spot. He had that big breakaway touchdown to kind of give some life in the swamp towards the end of the first half. And then they had some guys on the outside. Eugene Wilson had 50 yards. Nothing doing, really. This Miami team just looks really good, man. And they're my favorite to win the ACC. They're very, I think, well balanced, which I think the Miami teams of recent memory have not been, and they've been missing kind of like that like stud quarterback. And man, they got it with Cam Ward. He is unbelievable to watch, man. The first drive, he was walking out of bounds, just casually, just like galloping. All right, let me stop glazing him, but he looked good, man. There's a clip of him at the end of the half where he's like just watching film, and his teammate has to like let him know like we're going into the tunnel. Like the dude's that locked in on film on the sideline, he doesn't even know it's halftime. He looked great, man. Another thing I saw on, I think it was ESPN's like TikTok or whatever. The Miami guys were telling so a bunch of Florida recruits were there, guys that Florida brought in. They're trying to get them commit to their school. They brought them to the Miami game. Watched them get waxed 17-41. And all the Miami guys are like, "Don't go here, don't go here. Come to you instead." I was like, dude, that is got to be the coldest thing of all time. Just telling guys like, "Hey, we just whooped your team's ass. This school sucks. We're going to be dominating you guys as long as you guys are here. Come to the U." And that was unbelievable, man. They're my pick to win the ACC. Simple as that. I know it's early, but they are. We'll jump over to. I think did I skip anybody? No, I don't believe so. Maybe I did. We'll find out. We'll jump over to U of A. They beat New Mexico 61-39. We'll start with U of A. Nova Fida went 19 for 31, 422 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick. They're rushing. They have Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, 13 carries, 106 yards, touchdown. Their running back, Quali Conley, had 10 carries, 90 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then the big dog, Tatario McMillan, 10 catches, 304 receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns. He averaged 30 yards a catch. It's absolutely unbelievable how talented this guy is. I know it's New Mexico. I'm not oblivious. I understand. But the way this guy moves, the way he, like these other guys, like Ollie Gordon, he has that different look to him. He looks NFL ready. He looks like he's going to go out there and go to whatever NFL team and just dominate, man. He just looks like that guy. I think he broke every freaking record first week. Yeah, man. On the other side of the ball, I want to highlight some Devin Dampierre, man. Known the kids from elementary school. Went to Saguaro here in Arizona. Great kid. Literally the most down-to-earth, humble kid of all time. I got to highlight him because I know they lost, but he comes in, he puts 39 on a number 21 ranked Arizona team, which a lot of people have a lot of high expectations for this team. They see him getting to the playoff this year. And he hangs a 24 for 42 with 260 through the air, 3 touchdowns. He did have 2 picks. He's just trying to make stuff happen. He also had 15 carries for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. Luke Weissong had 8 catches for 129 yards and a touchdown. He impressed a lot, but nothing but good things to say about this this kid, man. Devin is I saw him this past summer, and same kid always, man. Just super humble, super down to earth. I hope he does get an opportunity to go to a big school, because I think if you give him support where he doesn't feel like he has to make every play for anybody, you put him on a team with a good defense who's going to get the ball back for him. He's a special player, man. He's one of the craziest athletes I've seen ever with my own 2 eyes. But yeah, man, super happy for him, man. Excited to see what he's got coming next. But this did a lot for his stock as far as for maybe entering the transfer portal. But yeah, man. For U of A, though, like 39 points against is pretty alarming from a New Mexico team. They got to clean stuff up on defense, but when you got Noah Fafita and Tatario McMillan and the connection they got, you're going to be in every game. Yeah, excited to see what they do. I think it's in 2 or 3 weeks when they play Colorado. Colorado comes to the Dirty T, and that's going to be a shootout, man. Both teams can't stop anybody, so that's going to be fun. Maybe a Tatario McMillan Travis Hunter matchup, that would be insane. Yeah, man. And then we got Iowa. Won't lie, did not watch this game. Again, I only have 2 eyes. I can't really watch every single game live, but I did watch the highlights, extended highlights. Cade McNamara, I think that's how you say his name. I'm probably butchered it. Went 21 for 31, 251 through the air, 3 touchdowns. Typical Iowa fashion, they had 241 rushing yards. Caleb Johnson led them with 11 carries, 119 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And they got a bunch of guys contributing through the passing game. Maurice Vanderzee had 2 touchdowns on 5 catches for 66 yards. Yeah, man, that's Iowa team. They play Iowa State next week. I'm kind of jumping ahead to the predictions, but that game will probably be 13-10 if I had a score prediction for that. But yeah, man, typical Iowa team. They're going to be in every game because of their defense. It's just if they can get stuff going on offense. Maybe they do with this transfer. I think don't quote me on this. I'm looking up in real time. Not the best podcasting here. I believe he's a transfer. I'm pretty sure, unless he's already been there. Maybe. Let's see. No, yeah, he's a transfer from Michigan. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Michigan transfer. Michigan quarterback transfer. I don't know if that's the answer, really. I just kind of harped on Michigan for not having a quarterback. But yeah, that's really my recap. I had some other notes actually for the Colorado game. Let's dive into those real quick. And I'm gonna overreact here heavy. Just stay with me. Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter are both Heisman candidates. Yeah, you heard me. I'm not stepping off it. I think Shedeur, whatever you want to say about Deion, whatever you want to say about perfect timing, whatever you want to say about the whole narrative surrounding Colorado and Deion banning people from asking questions at the press conference, you cannot deny the talent that is Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. They are unbelievable talents, and with how the NFL works and where quarterbacks go in the draft, I wouldn't be surprised if Shedeur goes, if not one, top 3, with Travis Hunter going somewhere in the top 10. But man, their connection's unbelievable. It's up there with like Fafita and McMillan for just kind of just the best dynamic duos in college football. Just the chemistry they got with each other. But yeah, man, they struggled. They struggled against this NDSU team, and that's kind of been the case with what we've come to know as Colorado football. They can't really stop anybody. Their defense did have some timely sacks, whereas last year I feel like they were just non-existent. But they're going to have to be better on defense, and I think there's got to be, I don't know what's going on with the Colorado coaching staff, but when you're up, I think the situation was, I think it was like 1:30 on the clock, and they decided to pass on first down instead of running the ball. You have to run the ball there. Even if you think you're going to get tackled for a 2-yard loss, you have to run the ball. You kill the clock, the game's over. Instead, you let something happen at the end there, and it sets up a Hail Mary, and that's just not something that you can completely take out of the equation by just running the football. And they never have been able to set up, and since Deion's time there, they had a really talented guy, Dylan Edwards. They never wanted to set up the run with him. And I don't know if it's the ego with Shedeur and Travis and getting their stats padded and just making sure they're good. And then when Shedeur leaves, Deion's going to step down, which I probably think is going to happen. But yeah, man, I can't deny their talent. Colorado plays Nebraska next week, which I think is a fun game to watch. I'm definitely watching that live. Not going to watch the highlights on that one. That's something I'll watch live for sure. Something I just thought was hilarious. I can't even. Perfect timing. Obviously, Shedeur's song that he made. Kind of catchy, I won't lie. They were playing perfect timing after every passing touchdown he threw. I don't know if you guys could hear it in the background, but he was doing the Shedeur, holding up his rollie or whatever, Richard Millie, whatever he's got, to the crowd, singing perfect timing. And I was like, this cannot be real. This is what Colorado football is, man. You got Deion denying questions at press conferences. You got Shedeur perfect timing playing after every touchdown he throws. It's unbelievable, really. But yeah, man. Travis Hunter made an unbelievable catch. Yeah, I can't even. That dude is a freak athlete. Jimmy Horn had a good stat line too. 7 catches, 198 yards, and a touchdown. Travis finished with 7 catches for 132 yards and 3 touchdowns. You got to give credit to North Dakota State here too. They battled. Their quarterback is actually very talented. He played a very good game. But I think he just got overmatched by skill gap and just more talent on the Colorado side of things. Yeah, man, that's what you'd expect from a former Pac-12 team with Deion Sanders as your head coach with that money coming in, compared to an FCS team. Given it is a championship pedigree FCS team, but an FCS team nonetheless. So yeah, we'll skip Colorado. We're done with them. They're just the biggest meme of college football, to be honest. We'll head to NC State here. I told you guys we're gonna get to them. They looked bad. They won 38-21. That scoreline is not very fitting of how that game went. Going into the fourth quarter, they were still a close game. I think it was a touchdown, maybe even less, that separated them. I'll actually start with the Catamounts here, the Western Carolina Catamounts. Cole Gonzalez is an absolute dog. That dude was just making every play. Talk about just a warrior, dude. That dude was trying to do everything he could to keep that team in the game. It was kind of a weird start to the game with NC State's middle linebacker, Caden Fordham. He got ejected for targeting in the first drive of the game. And he's their mic, and he's got their entire headset and stuff in there. So I think that was kind of threw that defense for a loop. And I talk about quarterback play this entire episode about who about the talent surrounding them, and just it comes down to who's got the better quarterback play. With Will Howard and the like, with how talented they. I'm rambling here. I'm getting sidetracked. With how talented they are around him, Grayson McCall, the quarterback for NC State, should not be as bad. And how he played awful, man. He played bad. They have 3 receivers around him that are very talented, and Casey Concepcion is an absolute dog. He's got to get out of Raleigh and get to like an Alabama or a Georgia, man, because he could actually be a first-round pick. I think he's that talented. The way he moves is kind of like Jalen Waddle-esque. He had 9 catches for 121 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was a freshman last year and led their team in receiving. That was a team that finished number 24, obviously, in the country. So, I mean, very impressed by that guy. They had a Duke transferred Jordan Waters, whatever you say, how you ever say his name. He was pretty quiet the entire game, and then kind of got loose. Kind of showed that third and fourth quarter, I'm gonna come in and just dominate you guys with just my physicalness and just breaking through tackles and stuff like that. He kind of sealed the game for them, but I'll tell you what, man, this NC State team is very fraud, in my opinion. I think their defense did let up 21 points to a Western Carolina team, and maybe that had a lot to do with their Mike getting ejected early. Maybe not. But yeah, my takeaways, Casey Concepcion is an absolute dog, bro. You got to get that guy the ball whenever you can. But yeah, man, I think that kind of sums up my recap. I know that was a lot. What are we at? 128. Yeah, that was kind of a lot. I'll try to make it shorter next time. Kind of got a little off track there, but let's look ahead to next week games. Just give kind of just an overview of what I think, what to expect from next week's games. You got the big dog, the big game, Texas at Michigan, man. I think from what I gathered from the first week, every game I'm going to look at is going to come down to a lot of factors, but it's going to come down to quarterback play. And I think Ewers is, I do think he's a little bit overrated, but he's definitely better than whatever that dude's name is they got. I'm blanking on his name right now, the Michigan quarterback. Warren, yeah, he's way better than Warren. I do think it's going to be close because if I'm Michigan, I'm establishing the run, and it's going to try to make that quarterback's life as easy as possible with the play action. But yeah, I think Texas walks away with that one with the win. It's going to be a tough environment to play in. It's a big house there. It's always going to be rowdy in there. But that's at 9 a.m. my time, West Coast time. I'm just going to pause real quick. Sorry, back. Gotta let my dog out. But back to Georgia Tech, Syracuse. Georgia Tech, man, they're ranked 23 now. They crack into the top 25 after beating Florida State and then handling business last week. They play Kyle McCord's Syracuse Orange team, which I think is gonna be a fun game. I think as far as like not ranked on ranked matchups go, I feel like this is going to be a pretty entertaining game. I think Haynes King is a very talented quarterback and runner. Haynes on Georgia Tech is also a very talented runner. Should be a good game, man. Talked about that Iowa State-Iowa game. Probably going to be combined yards of 200 for both teams. Yeah, that's probably going to be, if you're betting, hammer the under, because that's brutal game to watch. Really, it's gonna be a defensive struggle. You got Kansas, Illinois. I think Kansas will kind of handle them. I think it might be close early, but I think Jalen Daniels kind of pulled away at the end. And then you got one of the only ranked matchups I kind of touched on earlier with Tennessee and NC State. I think Tennessee beats them by 2 or 3 scores, man. I think they're that much better. I think Nico kind of shows, all right, I'm the real deal. And then Grayson McCall kind of gets put on fraud notice, man. I don't think he's all that. But like I said, if you get the ball in Concepcion's hands, he's going to make something happen. So that'll be a fun game. That's at 4:30, 7:30 Eastern. You got a Boise State team who guys coming off 6 touchdowns playing Oregon. I'll be tuned into that because I thought Oregon was gonna run through Idaho, and they didn't. So they'll play a Mountain West team in Boise State, and hey, man, they had a guy go for 267 and 6 touchdowns last week. So we'll see what's going on. They dropped to 7 actually. Wow, that's actually deserving. You can't really argue that. USC jumps up from 23 to 13. Very, very earned. Clemson drops from 14 to 25. Oklahoma moves up a spot. LSU drops a bit to 18 from 13 to 18. Ohio State stays at 2. Mizzou jumps up to 9. Bama moves up to 4. Miami moves up to 12. Very deservingly so. Louisville cracks the top 25. They play Jacksonville State. They'll run through them. That game will probably have like 90 points scored. But yeah, that should be a lot of offense in that game. And yeah, man, I think the only other game I'm thinking of I might be missing is this Arkansas-Oklahoma State game. That actually might be a very underrated type of game here with if Arkansas can kind of key in like I was talking about with Ollie Gordon and just kind of temper and limit his damage and just make Bowman beat them. I think that might be a key to success for the Razorbacks, but I think Oklahoma State gets it done. But yeah, man, I think not really too many ranked on rate games or really like games that jump out for me for week 2, but you never know. Some team could freaking Tulane could be Kansas State. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly. But yeah, man, I think that's gonna sum up my first recap. First recap and first ever podcast on the channel. I appreciate you guys listening. You got to bear with me. This is still like my first time ever doing a podcast and staying on track really with talking for an hour and a half. So, but I appreciate you guys listening. If you haven't, just go follow like the Instagram. It's Let's Talk Ball _podcast. That's the handle for both Instagram and TikTok. Yeah, guys, I appreciate you guys listening, and I'll be back with another recap next week. I'll be doing weekly recaps. And then I also got an NFL preview with my buddy Randy tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, man, appreciate you guys listening. Take care. Bye.